you can increase your comprehension skills as a reader. So how much time it takes you to understand things becomes easier. So I hope you understand why these guided reading sessions will be helpful to you. Let us begin with this article now. Yes. So let's look at it. The Barbie film has hit the $1 billion mark just 17 days after it was released, according to the distributor Warner Bros. So Warner Brothers are a very famous distributor of films. So here the word distributor refers to the distributor of films. It means Greta Gerwig. Greta Gerwig is the director of the Barbie movie, has become the first woman to reach the milestone as a solo director. So all of these movies which might have reached the 1 billion mark with women before would not have been solo directed by women, but they would have been directed in collaboration with men. After the release of the Barbie movie, it means that Greta Gerwig has become the very first woman to achieve this milestone of $1 billion at the box office. Warner Bros. Described it as a watershed moment. So now this is going to be very helpful to you. This is where you should be paying attention. Let's look at this phrase, watershed moment. You can see here, watershed moment. So watershed means two things. First, there's the shed for storing water, but here watershed means something that has created history. Something that has created history or marked a turning point in history. So it is anything that has created history or marked a turning point in history. A watershed moment means something that is very unique, which has never happened before. And by the existence of this thing happening, it has created a very important milestone. So that's a watershed moment. Please note it down in your vocabulary classes. It's going to be a very good idiomatic phrase to include in your IELTS writing and your IELTS reading. So if you ever encounter phrases like these, or you can even use it in your IELTS speaking, so you can include these idiomatic phrases and words to actually improve whatever you're trying to say, to increase your idiomatic score, to increase your lexical resource score. So I hope everybody understands what watershed. Jeff Goldstein, president of domestic distribution in the US, said, "No one but Greta Gerwig could have brought this cross-generational icon and her world to life in such a funny, emotional, and entertaining story, literally turning the entire world pink." So pink is a color that is traditionally associated with Barbie. I don't know if any of you have seen the Barbie movie yet, but the advertising for it was really great. And Jeff Goldstein, he said that no one but Greta Gerwig could have brought this cross-generational icon. So who is the cross-generational icon here? We have to understand that Barbie herself is a cross-generational icon here. What is meant by cross-generational? Something that crosses over from one generation to another generation. So going from one of the previous generation, so Barbie is something that has been going on from the 1950s. And to this generation of the 2020s, there has been a cross-generational exchange. So this is what is being talked about here. He said that long lines in cinemas and repeat viewings prove that movies are back. after the cinema industry suffered due to the pandemic lockdowns and competition from streamers. So here he says that I think that cinema is back and people are coming back to watch movies in theaters after it suffered. So during the pandemic, during the COVID-19 pandemic, it was really difficult for people to go out because they were afraid of catching the virus. So now people are coming back out. So who is the competitor for traditional movies? Streamers. So streaming platforms such as Netflix, Prime, Hulu, these are the competitions for mm, for movies, traditional movies. Now here they're talking about something else. Other female directors have helmed films that have surpassed the $1 billion mark. So here you can see that there is another word. The first phrase we had was watershed, watershed moment. Helm. To helm something means to head it from the very first. So you might have seen attack formations when an army attacks. This portion, the very front portion, is called the helm. So from the starting, so it has been headed. The word helm means to head. Before that, we had another word called watershed moment. Helm means to head, and watershed moment is is a moment that marks a turning point in history. So please note down these two very important phrases. Meanwhile, Captain Marvel, okay, the $1 billion mark, but working with, let me just clear it, but working with others, Frozen, the animated blockbuster, and its sequel have generated more than $1.4 billion in the box office takings, but co-directed by Jennifer Lee and Chris Buck. So Chris Buck is obviously a man, not a female director. So it has been a collaboration, but never has this feat been achieved by a female director. Meanwhile, Captain Marvel, starring Brie Larson and co-directed by Anna Boden and Ryan Flick, generated more than $1.1 billion in takings. The pink-hued film has received praises from critics and inspired scores of selfies at doll boxes installed in cinemas across the UK too. Starring Margot Robbie as Barbie and Ryan Gosling as Ken, it has drawn in $459 million so far in the US and $572 million internationally. So this is just about the breakdown of the finances of how much it made at the box office. Achieving bar billion. So bar billion is an amalgamation on two words, that is Barbie and billion. So we come together for bar billion. We join those two words together for bar billion. As described by Warner Bros. Is no mean feat. Just 5 other films have done so since the pandemic. So since the pandemic, which came around in 2020, it has only been achieved by 5 films so far. And what are those films? Just 5 other films. The Super Mario Brothers movie, which was released earlier this year, Spider-Man No Way Home, Top Gun Maverick, Jurassic World Dominion, and the Avatar sequel, that is Avatar Way of Water. So these are the 5 stories. These are the 5 movies which have been able to achieve the billion-dollar mark. Cinema goers have often paired a viewing of Barbie, which tells a coming-of-age story of the iconic doll, with Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer, a story about the development of the first atomic bomb. So you might have known it was quite in the news. Oppenheimer and Barbie were scheduled to release on the very same day. So Barbie is by the director Greta Gerwig, and Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer is obviously by Christopher Nolan. It is about the story of the development of first nuclear bomb. UK-based cinema chain View recently said both films have led to firm seeing its busiest weekend in 4 years. Miss Robbie also served as one of the producers on Barbie. So Margot Robbie, the person who starred as Barbie in the movie, also said in an interview with Collider that she banged on making $1 billion in early meetings. I think I told them that it'd make $1 billion, which maybe I was overselling, but we had a movie to make, okay? She told the publication. So here you learn another word. It's called overselling. Overselling. So I think it's quite easy to amalgamate these words and figure out what it means. Over means to go over, or it just means to do something extra. So she was selling the film extra hard. She was overselling. It means that she was praising the concept of the movie so much that it would have sold, but she was overselling it. She was doing it more. She was selling it extra hard. That's what it means here. Uh, the film's marketing campaign has been huge, with pink billboards installed in cities across the world, while a pink TARDIS also appeared Tower Bridge. At Tower Bridge. Toymaker Mattel is hoping to repeat the same success with other films. So Mattel is the toy maker for Barbie. So Mattel is the company that makes Barbie. Other Mattel brands include Barney, Hot Wheels, and Polly Pocket are set to feature in upcoming Hollywood movies. So the toy maker is also banking on reporting, uh, on actually selling more of his merchandise through the movie. So this is a marketing strategy. It released a soundtrack album and entered into more than 155 consumer product partnerships for the Barbie film, although it recently reported that its sales fell by 12% for the 3 months to the end of June. So despite being connected with such a big name movie, its sales fell. I hope you're understanding what I'm saying. Let's read this other article. So this was a short one, but I hope you remember the words that we learned. So we learned 3 words here: watershed moment, helm, and what was the other one? Does anyone remember? I think these were the only two, right? So, oh, overselling. Yes. So, watershed means a turning point in history. Helm means to head something. And overselling means to try to persuade someone really hard. So you try to persuade someone really hard. I hope you're writing down these vocabulary sentences. These will be very helpful to you once you start your IELTS preparation. This is going to help you include idiomatic phrases in your IELTS speaking and your IELTS reading. You'll be able to comprehend and understand better. Of course, your speed of reading will also go up and your comprehension skills will go up. So please note down these few words that I have on the screen so that you can include them in your vocabulary. I'm going to give you 2 minutes to do that. And after that, we'll start reading this other article. I hope everyone's noted it down. All right. Okay, that's great. Okay, let's come down. So this is a promotional still from the Barbie movie. Margot Robbie is obviously playing Barbie, and the counterpart to Barbie is Ken, being played by Ryan Gosling. So let's look at it. We're looking at a critical analysis of Barbie movie. So let's say what the critics, the movie critics, have to say about the Barbie movie. Life in Plastic is mostly fantastic, according to many critics who have broadly praised the Barbie movie. Life in Plastic is a phrase from one of the very famous songs about Barbie. It's a song by Aqua that goes something like Life in Plastic, it's fantastic. So this is the catchphrase from the song. The much publicized film is released this Friday opposite Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer and stars Margot Robbie and Ryan Gosling. Empire said Barbie was painfully funny, while The Independent described it as joyous from minute to minute. So these are the descriptions for it, but the Daily Mail called it uneven and disjointed, while the Times said it was very pretty but not very deep. So what do they mean here? So it was very pretty to look at, but they said that it didn't have a very deep message behind it. Robbie stars as the doll in director Greta Gerwig's film, which has been made with cooperation from toy manufacturer Mattel. So we read in the previous article that this was in partnership with Mattel, who's the toy maker for the Barbie franchise. In a five-star review, The Independent's Clarice Lowray said Barbie is one of the most inventive, immaculately crafted, and surprising mainstream films in recent memory, a testament that can be achieved with even the deepest bowels of capitalism. So here, the person belongs to the Independent newspaper, the Independent magazine. That's the name of the magazine. And Clarice Lowray said Barbie is one of the most inventive, immaculate, and it's very surprising that it's a mainstream film. So it's not an art film. It's not a film that has anything beyond its surface to offer, but it has done something really inventive that can only be done that is possible even within the system of capitalism. While it is impossible for any studio film to be truly subversive, especially when consumer culture has caught on to the idea that self-awareness is good for business, Barbie gets away with more than what you think was possible. So here is another phrase for you. It's called self-awareness. So self-awareness is a phrase that means you are aware of yourself. So what is the trend nowadays? It's for movies to be self-aware. So if you are self-aware that you're a commercial movie, if you're not an art film, you can subvert the trope of being a commercial film. So subverting means to actually traverse or to change the path of something. So let's just take a look at this word, subvert. Subvert or subverse. So here I'm using the first form of the word, subvert. Subvert means to change the track of something. So it means that if something is going in this trajectory, to subvert it means to avert it to a different place. So whatever the expectations from this movie were truly subverted in what they thought would be the movie would be about. So if you hear of the Barbie movie, it's probably going to be about Barbie and her life. But the way this movie pans out is actually subverts the different tropes that we associate. So thinking it's only a woman's movie, thinking that it's only a movie for children, all of those tropes have been subverted because this movie dealt with topics far greater than what could have been done or would have been possible with a commercial movie like this one. Let's read a bit more. The Telegraph's Robbie Collin was also positive, awarding the film 4 stars and describing it as deeply bizarre, conceptually slippery, and often roar out loud hilarious. So here the critic says that it was deeply bizarre. The meaning of the word bizarre is strange, something that is not expected, something that is out of the ordinary. So here is another word for you. Please try to keep it in your memory or try to note it down in one of your workbooks. It's bizarre. Bizarre means strange or out of the ordinary. It's an unexpected pleasure to report that Greta Gerwig's film, while still fundamentally being a summer comedy adventure about the Barbie toy line, is far from the blunt force cash grab many of us feared, he wrote. So whatever this movie did, it did all of that by subverting and uh, by actually trying to include very meaningful, deep themes instead of just making it a cash grab. There's another word for you, another phrase. So you can use it in your IELTS speaking. You can also use it in your IELTS writing. And if you hear this phrase appear, you will be able to understand it on the reading and listening sections as well. So cash grab is something that is manufactured mainly So it is something that has been manufactured mainly to make money and nothing else. So it's all just about making money and there's no deep thought that goes into it. But this movie wasn't like that. So with this, I would like to end today's session. I hope you had a great time. You might have learned a lot of new words and these new words that are on your screen, I hope you try to include them in your daily vocabulary. And thank you so much for attending the newspaper reading session. These are very brief sessions, but these do help you quite a lot in the IELTS preparation. So every other day we go live. So every other day. So if today is Thursday, we'll be going live on Saturday.